I never loved you.
This activates the clauses protecting my interests.
The door hadn't even finished closing behind her when I realized my entire life had just collapsed. 16 years of marriage, and I still believed the woman across the dinner table was someone who loved me, or at least respected me. But in a single breath, with the calmness of someone reading a weather report, she detonated it all. Looking back, I suppose I should thank her, because what followed was the cleanest, coldest, most precise revenge I could have ever asked for. We were at our usual anniversary spot, a dimly lit Italian restaurant with chandeliers that looked like melting gold. I had given Sarah roses that morning and wrote her a note, just like I did every year. She even wore the emerald dress I bought her last Christmas. Everything felt familiar, comfortable, safe. Our daughter Emma was away for the weekend, so it was just us. For the first time in a while, it felt like we could just be husband and wife again. Then the waiter placed her favorite dish in front of her. She took a delicate bite, wiped her lips, and looked me dead in the eyes. "I'm going back to Derek," she said. Derek, her ex. "I never really loved you." There was no drama, no apology, not even a flicker of guilt. She said it as casually as someone asking for the salt. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just nodded and said, "Then you should leave." She expected fireworks. She wanted me to fall apart, to give her a scene, to justify the narrative she had already rehearsed in her head. But I gave her the one thing she wasn't prepared for, silence. And in that silence I saw something in her falter, not regret, just confusion. She wanted chaos, and I denied her the satisfaction. Back at our house, she strutted around, talking loudly on the phone with Derek, packing her things as if I were the villain holding her back from her grand destiny. She even had the nerve to joke about getting half of everything. I just leaned against the doorframe, watching her. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was just quietly waiting. Because what she didn't know was that I had been preparing for this exact moment for 7 years. You see, I'm a forensic accountant. My world is built on patterns, numbers, and lies. It's my native language. I had noticed the late-night texts, her sudden disinterest, the strange scent of cologne on her clothes sometimes, the way Derek's name started creeping back into conversations. I wasn't blind, I was just patient. So I did what I do best. I documented everything. I built a financial fortress she didn't even know existed. Over the years I had drafted a postnuptial agreement with clauses so detailed they would make a lawyer sweat. I created a network of trusts and LLCs that systematically moved every major asset out of her direct reach. These legal structures were designed to activate automatically if she ever walked out with the intent to end our marriage, and the best part? She signed everything without reading a single page. She just never cared enough to look. So when she dragged her suitcase out the door that night, she unknowingly triggered the one clause that instantly isolated all marital assets from her. As her Uber pulled away, I went into my study. I opened a fireproof box, filled out an activation letter documenting her departure, and uploaded everything into the legal portal. With a single keystroke, I executed the asset shift. The house, the cars, the investment accounts, even the timeshare she loved bragging about were now fully transferred into a legal structure she no longer had any access to. The trap was sprung. The next morning, she sealed her own fate. She posted a picture online, a champagne selfie with Derek, timestamped nearly 3 hours before she ended our marriage at dinner. That photo was the final piece of the puzzle. It was all the proof I needed to activate the adultery and premeditated abandonment clauses in our agreement. I compiled the metadata from the photo, sent it to my lawyer, and watched as the legal machinery I had built years earlier quietly whirred to life. By that afternoon, her lawyer called me. His voice was dripping with confidence, arrogantly listing all the assets she planned to claim in the divorce. I let him finish, then I simply emailed him copies of all the signed agreements and the time-stamped evidence. I could practically hear his jaw drop over the phone. His tone went from cocky to terrified in a matter of seconds. He had no idea what he was stepping into. Sarah, of course, hadn't told him about the papers she'd so carelessly signed. It only took 24 hours for her entire world to crack. The next day, she marched into our bank, expecting to withdraw thousands of dollars for her new life. The teller informed her that her name was no longer on the accounts. The branch manager came out and showed her the paperwork with her own signature, agreeing to remove herself from access if she ever violated the terms of our postnup. She stormed out with nothing. Next, she went to Derek's apartment where she'd been staying. Taped to the door was a lease termination notice. As it turned out, the property belonged to one of my holding companies. I hadn't even known she was living there, but the trust's automated asset protection kicked in, and the system flagged the address. She wasn't even allowed to stay the night. Derek panicked. She panicked more. He quickly retreated, realizing he was caught in the crossfire, and she was left completely on her own. For the first time, she understood that nothing in her life was secure. Desperate, she called our daughter Emma, crying and claiming I had destroyed her life. Emma, confused and upset, came to me asking for the truth. I didn't want to poison her against her mother, so I just told her to check Sarah's text messages on the family cloud account. She did. A few hours later, she sent me screenshots. Messages between Sarah and Derek, planning her escape, mocking me, talking about how she was just pretending until the time was right. The moment Emma saw the truth, she cut her mother off. There was no yelling, no drama, just a clean, quiet rejection. Derek wasn't doing any better. He was served with a civil lawsuit for fraudulent interference and benefiting from assets he had no legal right to. His own lawyer basically told him he was doomed. 3 weeks later, Sarah asked to meet. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, a ghost of the confident woman who'd walked out on me. I didn't say much. I just handed her a folder containing everything, the evidence, the signed clauses, the recordings of her phone calls made from our home landline, a complete record of her arrogance and deceit, all created by her. When she finally understood that she had legally forfeited everything, she looked at me with hollow eyes and whispered, "You didn't love me." I looked her right back in the eyes and said, "But I love the law," and she couldn't argue with that. A few months later, the final dissolution of our marriage came through. Not from a court, but from the trust administrator. Her claims weren't just reduced. They were nullified, erased. Sarah ended up broke, homeless, and alone. Derek left her. Her friends vanished. Emma chose to stay with me. And in the end, I never raised my voice, never broke a single law. I simply prepared for the betrayal she assumed I'd never see coming. She thought she was starting a war, but I had already won it years ago. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever felt underestimated, remember that knowledge and preparation are the most powerful tools you have. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. See you next time.